Alright, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about economies of scale last week, and this week we're going to be looking into all sorts of issues that are related to tariffs, and that generally is related to imports. So in order to give you a background on some issues related to tariffs, what I would like you to do is watch a few videos, and if you go on Connect under week 9, it'll show you on the main page for week 9 here. You have the first video is how tariffs work, the second is on political motives of tariffs and trade, the third is on the history of trade wars, and then lastly you have a video on comparative advantage. Now, it's important when you're watching these videos because this all took place within the last couple of years of what we're going to be looking at with China and the US. It's important that you're paying attention to the dates for when the video was posted, because maybe they're talking about 2 years back this happened or something, but that's not necessarily obviously from when you're watching it. That's just when the video was posted. So once you have watched those videos, there is an article which you'll need to look at, which talks about the trade war between the United States and China. And as of the day that I'm recording this, the most recently posted change they had on here was the 5th of April, which is 3 days ago. You just need to keep in mind the date issues. Okay, so because this is so common in the news, you've probably heard of this trade war going on with all the tariffs between the United States and China. And I just wanted to get a current event in here so you could understand better what's going on with what tariffs are and how they work. So essentially, in the article, when you're looking at this, and it's a very short article, you just need to look through a few paragraphs and a couple pictures, but in 2017, all the imports that went from China into the U.S. totaled around $506 billion. Okay? And the proposed trades which took place at the federal government level in the United States were exceeding the total value of the trade of all the goods that came in. So initially it was at $53 billion, then in September 2018, $200 billion more was added. And recently they have, the federal government in the U.S. has threatened to add an additional 267. So if you add all this together, it exceeds the $506 billion that was the value of all goods imported into the United States from China. Okay, if we look at the Chinese imports from the U.S., they're bringing in around $130 billion right here. They already had $50 billion, okay, which they had $50 billion on imports. We had $53 billion on 506. So proportionately, you know, Chinese had a lot of imports. They threatened $60 billion more. So this can kind of, if you're looking through this article, you'll just kind of see what's going on from a high view, looking down. You can see what's going on there. So it's important that you read that article and understand sort of the scale to which things are happening here. So overall, about $500 billion a year. And if we're looking at this, if you'll remember when you looked at the Harvard Atlas earlier in the semester, I taught you how to look up questions, and all I did was type in here, what did the U.S. import into China between, in the window of the information that this site provides, and we can see off the far right that in 2016 they brought about $425 billion worth of stuff into the United States from China. Okay? And historically, all the way back to 1996, it was only $50 billion. So you can see over time how things have changed in this, and you can play around with that to learn more. You just go to that Harvard Atlas link. Okay, so that's the Harvard Atlas. That's the first link right here. You'll watch these videos. All right, once you have an idea of what's going on from reading the article, watching the videos, and looking at the Harvard Atlas, then I want to make sure you understand what comparative advantage is. So if you have a world in which two countries each produce two goods, one country is going to be better at making one good than they are at making the other good. Okay? And in this example, we have France and Italy who are trading. France, if they're all self-sufficient, totally isolated, they're not trading with Italy at all, then they can produce 12 bottles of wine and 5 pizzas, whereas Italy could produce 4 bottles of wine and 4 pizzas. Okay? If we decide that France should only produce wine, ultimately they will make 18 bottles of wine in total, and Italy will make 12 pizzas. Once we exchange, pizzas for wine and wine for pizzas, we end up with a world in which France has 13 bottles of wine and 7 pizzas instead of 12 wine and 5, so France is better off. And then Italy benefits by having 5 wines and 5 pizzas instead of 4 wines and 4 pizzas. Now this chart doesn't show comparative advantage. That is from this video that I want you to watch about, their example is the United States and Japan making cars and computers. But it's a similar idea, and you need to have an understanding of the concept of comparative advantage and trade in order to answer the questions for the week. Okay? So once you have watched those videos, read the articles, and understand comparative advantage, then look at your assignment. This deals with the trade war, and I would like for you to answer part 1, which pretty much goes through what those videos are. You're going to have to look up what economic or political isolationism is, but otherwise you should be able to answer those questions. And then in part 2, down here, you'll provide a list of 3 companies and different industries which benefited from the recent trade war that took place, and they can be anywhere in the world. Okay, you just have to say who they are, what industry they are, and what happened to them that made them better off. Part 2 also has this question 7 here, which is the opposite. We want to know 3 companies in 3 different industries which were harmed immensely. Okay? And if you're reading the BBC article, there are links on the victims and this kind of thing. You can get some hints out of this article to answer those questions. All right, so once you have completed the assignment for the week, I want you to put up a forum post which will have you answer whether you were for or against the USA and China trade war, and say why. Okay, once you've posted, I want you to respond to one of your classmates who took the opposite position. So if you were for it, I want you to comment on somebody who was against it. If you were against it, comment on somebody that was for it. And if no one disagrees with you, then just comment on one of your classmates who had the same position. Okay, so that's your work for this week. And please let me know if you have any questions. You can email bhunter1@lagrange.edu. And I hope you learned quite a bit from this. Thank you.